You're listening to The Dating Den with dating and relationship badass and best-selling author Marni Batista. Every week, you'll get the raw truth from top experts and real people on the important dating, sex, and relationship issues you want to know about. So if you're ready for true talk that's authentic and unfiltered, and you're not afraid to be called out on your stuff, then you're ready for what's next.
The Dating Den with Chris Gillis. How to get a guy to open up to you and what to do if he won't. Ladies, welcome into the Dating Den. Oh my gosh, so much to discuss here with our favorite manalist, Chris Gillis. So many topics. I mean, how to get a guy to actually pursue you. How to know when, no matter what you do or say, a guy won't pursue you so you can peace out. Who should say I love you first? How to get a guy who isn't emotionally expressive to do so. I mean, we have so many topics to discuss.
Wow. I like that little topper, a little teasers of what we're going to dive into.
I know. Well, you make it so easy. All right. Well, let's just talk about that. I want to talk about exes just to start off. A topic I did not tease. I think that, so we're talking in the context of watching Bachelor in Paradise the other night, and there's a couple that dated for a year and a half or 2 years. They're engaged. They break up because of logistics. You know, like he wants to live in the Midwest. She wants to live in California. We don't really know the details, except what we know is that she sort of refuses to even try to move or live somewhere else. They break up. He meets someone else. Here it is, a year and a half later. She is super sad. And it's a case of you always want what you can't have. And I think that when you are in a relationship for a really long time and you still have feelings for your ex, I see a lot of ladies coming up with reasons why they should get back in touch. Or they think, but he's my best friend, or he's the person that should console me about anything. Like somebody dies, you lose your job, you broke up with somebody, you thought you found your next person. I mean, what do you do? Like when, and should you do that? Should your ex be the person who consoles you? Should he be your best friend?
That's awesome. I was actually about to ask you, and now I'll get my little pieces. Yes, I'm always, everybody always is that excuse. Oh, well, she's a good person or he's a good person. And, and we're friends. We're staying friends. And I'm always like, should you stay friends? Really? Yeah. And for how long and in what context? And I am of the camp that no, that when you break up, especially if you've been really, really close with somebody, like, sleeping with them naked sort of thing, close with them, then you give them space to time and heal the grown. I think it's really actually selfish of people when they say, to go, oh, well, they need me or whatever. It's like, no, you know what? You're not allowing them the room and the space to heal and to grow by constantly throwing that Band-Aid over that wound when you were, definitely involved in that wound, and they constantly, to be there and to, kind of bottle feed them and assume that they can't get through it. I know the times that I'll speak for myself that when I've done it, I've been guilty of it 100%. It's like, no, I knew I was doing it selfishly because it made me feel better. It made me feel less shitty about, seeing them hurt or cry or, whatever it is. For it. So it's really more for me and less for them, but it makes me feel like a hero and all these other bullshit stories that I think we tell ourselves.
When I was watching the show last night, I felt like Joe, who was the ex, the object of her affection, I felt like he was not comfortable. I felt like he was like, oh God, I have to do this because I'm not a jerk. And I think that's the other thing is that there's some guys who are like you in your camp when you were like, oh God, I want you. I like it when you need me. And then there's some guys who are just like awkward, right? And I think my experience of watching last night was, I think in some ways Kendall realized that like it wasn't working. Like he was holding her and stuff, and she was like, like really hugging him, like,
Yeah.
and he was just like wooden hugging her, like, it's okay, little girl. Like, I don't really want to touch you too close or hold you too tight. And I think that we think that that's going to make us feel better to go to our ex for consoling. But deeper down underneath, I think that what happens is that some women, ladies, if this is you, just own it, that they think that if they fall to the victim position, that they can then manipulate the ex into wanting to be back with them, sleeping with them, right? It's like, oh, I'm hurting. And I think that I've seen so many women manufacture conditions and circumstances of creating opportunities to try and go rekindle things. And I'm just here to say, don't do it. I think what you said is brilliant. Like, he's not your best friend. He shouldn't be your best friend. He's with somebody else. You wouldn't want your new boyfriend to go like console his ex-wife. You wouldn't. So don't do it. Like, be a grown-ass woman and go find actual real friends who can console you, because your ex shouldn't be your best friend. I mean, you can be friends, like Facebook friends, like Facebook acquaintances, like, oh, he's dating someone else now. I mean, if you want to do that, that's fine. But you're not really friends in the true sense of like, we're there for each other. That reciprocal, where we have each other's back. I think that is a rare situation. And I would say the only way that works is if you literally have zero feelings for each other.
Yeah.
Zero.
Yeah, that's it. And I was going to ask you, I think that's why it's all bullshit. I was going to ask you, well, do you think that people, after they break up, do you believe in staying friends? And then with that said, I'm thinking, so many people, they'll say, oh, well, I don't. And I said, well, hold on. Do you still have feelings for her? No. But I still care about her. I'm like, hold on. I think that's a feeling.
For sure.
I think that's a feeling, bro.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny. I've been divorced from my husband for like 18 years now, longer than we were married. But I've known him since I was like 19 years old, right? So like, if he ever needed anything, I would like totally have his back, right? Like, and I know he would have mine. Like, can I borrow your car? Like, can I store some boxes at your place, right? Like those kinds of things. Yeah. But if I was struggling with anything, I would never. He is not that person for me. And so, especially ladies, if you're in a relationship and it's like wobbly, don't go back to don't talk to your ex about it. Just don't. Don't.
So you're saying like, it's okay to like you be there for them, especially like something that like your case where, you got children with this person, you're with them for over a decade, but so you can do things, but you can, like you said, you borrow your car, whatever, bail him out of jail or some shit like that, but you're not there to give him a long hold, hug him and hold him when he's down, like not emotionally for him. You're not at that sort of level.
Absolutely not. Yeah. And so I think, and the reason I brought that up is because there's context, because there's a lot of ladies who are listening, right? Like if you have kids together, if you dated, you were with someone since you were 14 years old and, you'll always probably have a connection in some way, a friendship, but that's not a real friendship. They're not your bestie. And definitely don't go to them when you need consolation, and don't put yourself in a victim position to try and manipulate them to get back with you.
Totally. That reminds, I have friends and they're in the opposite camp where they're the men who are now divorced and they have kids and their ex-wives. They'll because the guys still, they hate, there's something, ladies, you guys have this, don't use it. It's our kryptonite. When you start crying, we're like, oh shit, we need to stop that.
Yes.
We'll get in a plane and do whatever it takes. We'll leave our current wife to go back to, because hey, I think a girlfriend of mine from 18 years ago is crying, and to try to keep them to clog up the tears. And it's a poor thing. Yeah, we fall for it every time, like a dog chasing a stick. Get thrown over the Grand Canyon. We're gonna chase it. So don't use that superpower against us. And I have, it is manipulative, and it does work.
Well, it does work. It does work. But like in the case of Joe and Kendall last night, she got what she wanted, the hug, right? And all of that. But in the end, he's over her. He feels uncomfortable. It's a wooden hug. And if I were to like make a story up about what's going on in her mind and why she ends up leaving the show, is like, she's like, he's hugging me, but it's not the same, right? Like this isn't a connection. Like it makes me feel shittier about myself. Yeah. And it reminds me that this isn't what we had. And so even if the guy falls for the kryptonite and he's like, oh, pat on the back, it's going to make you feel shittier. Either way, either it's going to work and you sleep together and then he's like, oh shit, what did I do? Or you get the wooden hug like, oh God, this is so awkward. Please leave. Yeah. And you feel shitty. Don't do it.
No, don't do it. And you know what? And props to Grocery Store Joe for having those boundaries, because not a lot of men do that. And my mind's erasing of all the guys, my friends that I've had, and they drive their new girlfriends fucking up the wall because their baby's mamas are crying and in need, and they want to be Captain Save-A-Ho, so they're flying over there, and the girlfriend's like, hey dipshit, you're in a relationship with me.
Yes.
You're here to care for me, not this this woman is your past. She's using you. And it's funny how, good Lord, how so many of us, and I fall prey to as well, or we don't have the boundaries. So be good to us, gals.
Yeah, don't do it. Okay, let's talk about this. I wanted to this is such a huge one, and I think I told you last night I interviewed a woman named Logan Ury who works for Hinge, and she wrote a book, and one of the titles of her book, or the chapters, is Fuck the Spark. Because she believes, and according to the research, and she's a behavioral scientist and all of these fun things, that when we are choosing men just based on the spark alone or chemistry, that's usually not what we do when we're trying to change our patterns. And in the show last night, Tia, who has a history of going for unavailable men, right? Like, on the show before, she was attracted to this guy named Colton, who it turns out, like he was gay, like he was in the closet, but he was unavailable and he knew he was unavailable. And now she's on the show and there's two guys she's interested in. And one is a nice guy and he's treating her well and he's making an effort. And she doesn't feel, like she said, her vagina doesn't get excited about it. And
she consulted a lot.
She consulted it a lot. She was like, hey, help me out here. Help a girl out. And then there's this guy whose name's Blake. She calls him Daddy Tatty or Tatty Daddy. I don't know, whatever, because he has a lot of tattoos. And they just have sick chemistry and whatever. But he's totally a douche. And the nice guy, by the way, the nice guy is like a good-looking guy. Yeah. He's physically attractive. Like, so it's not like, we're talking like a 375-pound, unemployed, nerdy dude that someone would typically not maybe be attracted to versus, like Mr. Fitness. They're two attractive guys. And she just wants her vagina to be happy. And I just think that I agree. Like, the spark is not the thing to base everything on. So what are your thoughts on that? Like,
I couldn't agree more. And and gals who haven't watched the show, I think Marni's underselling it. I got a damn near crush on this guy who's not making her vagina tingle. And
James, like, I love James.
What the hell? We're like, what the heck? But he doesn't make any of the girls' vaginas tingle, which is interesting in itself. He doesn't he doesn't seem to really create sparks with anybody. So what does that guy, before I answer your question, what does that author say? What is it? Define sparks a little bit, and what do men do to create sparks, and when are they good sparks? Are there different levels of good and bad sparks? Curious what she says.
Well, I mean, one of the things she was talking about is that that we base that spark on this thing of like chemistry, and it is a short-term sort of like oxytocin, like it feels good. And often when you're emotionally unavailable yourself, those kinds of guys give the illusion of a connection. right? But it's not really emotional intimacy. It's just physical intimacy. And so that doesn't last, right?
Yeah.
Like over the long haul of a relationship, it can't be based on that because, and you've had these experiences and I've had these experiences. You can be with the hottest guy or the most hot woman, right? And after X amount of months, years, whatever it is, they're still going to be annoying, right?
Oh, yeah.
And then it doesn't matter how hot they are. Like you are not attracted to them because of X, Y, and Z. And so when you're basing the whole thing on like attractive, like I want to rip your clothes off, your measurement tool is not a long game approach. Because it doesn't matter. It can be Matthew McConaughey. It can be fucking Giselle, whoever it is. Like, once you see them for who they are, they're going to not be perfect. And that's not going to be the center of your relationship anymore, right? So it's just not a long game approach. And I'm wondering, is maybe Tia's not emotionally available?
Right. All right. Well, a couple things. I know I ask a lot of questions.
I love that you ask questions.
I'm that guy. So is sparks? Are sparks only felt in the China pod, as Tia says, in her vagina, or are sparks also felt in other areas? For gals.
Well, I think for women, like a lot of it is being seen and all of those things. But I think in this case, it's really just physical chemistry because this guy, what's this guy's name? Blake? Is that his name?
Yeah.
He's so not seeing her. She's like, they have a conversation, ladies, and we've all had this conversation. Like I have had this conversation.
I have to.
In my past. And she's like, all I need for you is to like act like you give a shit. And he's like, I'm doing it. I'm here. I'm talking to you now. I've told you I like you. And she's like, yeah, but like, other than telling me right now, you don't show it. And he's like, well, I mean, gosh, like, what's wrong with you? Why are you so needy? I don't understand. I've given you and just making her feel shittier and shittier about herself, not feeling seen. And so in those moments, it doesn't matter how hot he is.
Right. I've been on the other side of that argument where I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm just being factual. I'm sitting next to you. I'm listening to you. I'm fucking letting you, like rail on me. But what he doesn't do, and this is something I know you mentioned Jeremy did the other day really well, is he doesn't acknowledge her at all.
No.
Say, wow. I just say, wow, that sucks. I'm sorry. Yeah. You're feeling unseen right now or alone. And he just blanks. And he says, no, you're wrong. I'm doing these things. I'm right because of this, and blasts through. So there's no empathy. There's no acknowledgement. And she just gets more angry and more angry. It makes him come across like a douchebag. And then she looks more immature and childish because she can't say exactly what it is that she doesn't.
She doesn't get up and leave and be like, and that's the thing, right? Like if you're in one of those conversations that's going nowhere, ladies, exit the circle, get off the roundabout, be like, okay, we have a difference of opinion. I'm not going to sit here and try and convince you to do something that I want to experience because you're doing your best. You said you're doing your best. You're doing your best.
I thought, though,
it's not working for me. Let's go.
Yeah, I thought what I needed, and good, I'm just a dumb guy, but I was like, man, what I need, especially in those moments where I'm like, oh shit, when I'm getting yelled at for not giving my woman what she needs, it's so hard not to get, I'll switch over to defensive, mode. And I'm like, oh shit. Okay. Let me defend myself, which is, not a great stance to be in because now I'm not listening at all. I'm closed off, got my shield up and everything, got my sword in my other hand. I thought it would have been really powerful if she would have because she wasn't getting there, if she would have taken a time out to get clear on what it is that she needs. Because at that point, I felt like he needed instructions. He needed her to say, hey, you know what? I'm sorry. I don't, disarm him. I don't mean to yell at you or say you're wrong. I'm feeling really insecure today, or I'm really worried. I'm worried about where we're at. I could really use a hug. That's something you're up for, or whatever it is. Give him an opportunity to do something. But she wasn't clear. She was making him poke around in the dark. He was getting more frustrated. She was getting frustrated. It just turned into a gnarly like you said, a little cycle that wasn't going anywhere.
Yeah, and I think in those experiences, like it is really important to get to the need. And you know, like if they were really grown up, she could have said, you know, we had this great, amazing date, and I felt like we had a good connection and chemistry. And I'm been feeling the story I'm making up is that you're really not interested, because my experience of you is that you're sort of doing your own thing, and it makes me feel like you're not interested. And that's the story I have going on. And so what I would need is for you to set some time aside to like ask me out on a date or do something today that makes me feel special. What could I do for you? Right.
Yeah.
Now,
I love that. That's a discussion. I love that. What you just said. Now you're opening up for a discussion versus a trial, which is what I felt like the guy was getting at.
It was a trial. Now, here's what makes it really confusing is when you've only been on like 1 or 2 dates with someone, it's as a woman, it's you're like, dude, do I have to like tell you how to treat me? Like, so I think I would say that would be a pink flag if I were just like in the real world dating. And so then she's dating this other guy, James, right? And he's like, hey, Tia, you know, it's Wednesday. Would you like to go out Saturday night? Yes, I'd love to. Okay, that's great. Well, I know that you're from Arkansas. There's a really cool place that has Southern food, and I've never had Southern food. Would you like to go there? Yes, I would love that. Okay, great. I'll pick you up at 8, or do you feel more comfortable meeting me? That's the way it's supposed to go, right? And that's what this guy is basically doing in the context of, you know, being trapped on, you know, on the beach with a woman. But he's like, he set up a date. He set up a date for her. He was did his research to get to know a little bit about her, which in real life would be like maybe he read her profile again, you know, like, and then he's asking her questions about how she's feeling. And I think Tia did a pretty good job in that date of being open, but I still think she was a little bit guarded. And so I think the one thing that I'll say about James, and I don't know who he's really liked, I'm trying to follow who it was. It was like Becca. I don't know about her being emotionally available. So it's hard when one person is emotionally available and they're asking questions and the other person is giving them like a 5 on a scale of 10, being like, I'm open. It's hard to reciprocate because you're feeling like this person's only giving me a 5. Like it makes me feel unsafe. So I'm going to do a 5 back. Like James could have said in that conversation when he asked Tia about leaving her hometown and moving to Nashville, right? Which was like a big deal for her. He could have said something, yeah, like it was really hard for me to leave my family, or I didn't grow up that way. I was raised where you just peace out. Now, we didn't see the whole conversation and maybe they did, who knows? But I do encourage our listeners, like if someone is curious, to not give guarded answers, right? Because then you're making it hard for that person to be open with you. And if you pair that next to the conversation with Riley and Marissa, is that her name?
Yeah.
Okay, so they're dating. You know, they're like, let's say in real life they've been dating for 2 months, right? And it's serious, but he's not really expressive about his feelings, and she sets it up to say, I would like to know your feelings. Like, let's have a talk about feelings. And she says her feelings. It makes me feel unsure. I feel uncertain. And then he opens up, right? And then she matches it. It's hard for me too, right? And then they totally get more connected. And it was like she was open and then he was open. Then she encouraged, this is safe. She shared a little bit about how it was scary for her. And then he just sort of like really went there. So, you know, I think it's so easy to blame other people, like, oh, there was no spark or there was no connection or whatever it was. But like, are we being open? Are you ladies really being open and giving someone the space to have that connection?
Wow. A lot of great points there.
I know I said like 100 things.
It was you were on, we blacked out, baby. You were letting it roll, and it was so much good stuff. You mentioned earlier, and I think it's perfectly in line with this, how the book and the author lady is like, you know what? Hey, the vagina spark's going to wear off eventually, and it's possible to create other sparks. And I think we saw, so that's, you know, with Tia and with Taddy Daddy Blake. But then what's cool is you just mentioned that the transition, then you talked about Riley and Marissa, they immediately, boom, they hooked up on the first night, went to the boom boom room. And then she starts sitting there, and you can only boom boom room so much. And that you hit that flint, spark that flint, it's going to get less and less of a spark. It gets a little worn out. It doesn't have that same ignition, that same fire doesn't feel the same. And it's so interesting. You're right. She starts turning. She's like seeing these emotional sparks. She's watching everybody cuddle, canoodle, talk. And she was like, wow, I don't have that right now. And so she felt empty, and she's like sparkless. And then and what's so cool, and we're totally worth noting is when I first, I think I said last time I viewed Marissa, I'm like, man, she's very anxious. And Riley has a very avoidant personality. It was like, and I didn't like Riley. I was like, man, this guy just seems like a fucking nerd and a bully, and he's closed off, and there was nothing to him. I was saying it before the show started. I was like, or last night's episode started, I was like, I don't like this guy. He's just so wooden. Nothing fun.
Yeah, he's just all biceps, right?
And he's just all biceps, right? And muscle, and just short-term answers, and there was no flavor to him. So what I think the takeaway for the ladies out there and anyone listening to the show is, if you are one of those people who is avoidant, like Abigail on the show right now, or a person there who guards your heart, guys, it is so much more attractive when you open up and you share and you add that complete different dimension from a 2D to a 3D to a 4D person. Like, holy moly, Riley became, I don't know about you, Marni, I felt like he was so much more attractive as a human when he opened up and he shared his honest feelings, and a couple authentic tears came down his face. I'm like, holy shit, this is a real person I can sink my teeth in, and I liked the guy all of a sudden.
Yeah, me too. I'm like, wow, and he got, his edges came off, literally. Totally. And he was like, oh, this is hard. I can do it. He showed his humanity, right? Yeah. And I think that's what we're looking for, right? Like, if someone shows us they're not perfect, then it feels safer that we don't have to be perfect.
So true.
And I think some ladies will be saying, yeah, but when I do that, then like every time I open up, the guy like bails. And I would say like, yeah, then that's great, because he's not your guy. And it's true. Some men will bail when you want more, right? Mm-hmm. They'll do the Blake thing. Riley could have been like, I don't understand. What do you mean? Like, I told you I'm attracted to you. Obviously, I'm not, I would be jealous if you went out on another date. Why isn't that enough for you? But he didn't, right? So if the guy bails, your job is to not take it personally. It's to just be resilient and continue to be yourself and put yourself out there, which is a great segue to chatting about Natasha, because she has been dating on the show unsuccessfully. And she has another opportunity, and she gets asked out by a guy. And I'm not sure at this point. No, not Adam. No, what's the guy's name?
Kenny?
No. What, Natasha, was his name Kenny? Yeah. No, the guy, the new guy that she painted.
Oh shoot, I'm just blanking. Doug, no, not Doug. God, we love him though. Ed.
Yeah. So she gets asked out by Ed, and I'm like, at this point, I'm like, does she really like him, or does she just want somebody to like her? I don't know. But I think she shows up on the date like fun and flirty and not guarded, and she seems like she's just really open. And that's what dating is. And I think what is really great about Natasha over the course of the series so far is, she dates a douchebag. This is like what happens in real life, right? You meet someone, you think it's really amazing, they tell you everything they want to hear, and then you find out something about them and you're like, shit. And she had a moment of being like, oh my God, I'm so stupid. How did I fall for it? But she didn't really make it be about her. Then another guy, Dr. Joe or whatever, comes. She's like, okay, I'm going to go on another date. And then she's herself, and she says something like, this wasn't cool. And this person that she's dating, Dr. Joe, disagrees. And she's like, oh, we don't have a values match. Get back out there, right? And now there's a guy, and she's, went well. They kissed, and they have possibly a connection. So that is dating. The key to being successful is to not take this shit personally.
I love it. Yeah. Easier said than done.
Yeah, of course. And if you can't not take it personally, then it's time to take a pause, right? And figure it out. Because the one great thing I like about this particular show is if you take it, it's the most like real dating that we can sort of use as a laboratory. Because that's what dating is. You're talking 100%. To different guys. Some things go fast, some things go slow. Sometimes there's great sex. Sometimes they're dating other people.
Sometimes they're sour cream licking off the leg hairs.
Oh God, that
normal
was
dating.
That was that was so bizarre.
I got a question for you. How can your listeners, your gals out there, because you mentioned the importance, and I'm all for it, of being, I guess, vulnerability for a lot. To sum it up, simple words, to show your edges and your corners. And then you mentioned, and I've heard it, and I've done some man panels with you, and I've heard your gal say it as well. So I think it's worth repeating. I tried this and I was honest, and that's why they left. How can a person who is in Natasha's situation, who is like, they're not, it's not going great. And the guys are disappearing. They're not getting a lot of feedback from them. How can they be careful to not conflate their being vulnerable with the myriad of other reasons that the date could have ended? So to prevent them from saying, you know what, Marni, I tried it. It doesn't work. You're wrong. So I'm going back to, I'm
having my guard up. Yeah.
I'm going my guard up because I tried it once. And you're like, I don't think that's why. I get that. I've gotten that sense from doing some of the questions, some of the panels with some of your gals, and it's easy to be right, have our ego say no, hey, no, I'm right. Being vulnerable doesn't work because it's like Riley's a fucking big old buff tough dude, and the guy's like, you have to breathe in, like you said, it's I got this.
It's like I can do this. I can do it. I think scary. I think that I've said this before, but remember that. The part of your brain that is always the smoke detector, constantly on the lookout, is hypervigilant from past traumas, right? Your amygdala, right, is like, if you're not conscious, if you're not doing this work, it will constantly be collecting evidence that you are right about why you should stay closed off, right? And your brain is just scanning. It's the smoke detector is always on. And so it's really important to look at asking what I call higher quality questions. And so when you take the focus off what's wrong with the guys, right? Like, see, when I did that, it's because that guy was this, and that guy's a jerk, and men are this, and men are that. And flip it and say, what is it that is in my patterns or my past or my present that is causing me to be attracted to or pick the wrong kind of guys?
Yeah.
That's a question you can answer because, and that's what I was kind of saying, even looking at Tia, maybe she is emotionally unavailable and that's why she likes unavailable men. I don't know if James is emotionally available. I have no idea. I haven't been able to really tell. But he talks a good game and he's trying. But I think that if you want to be right and safe, you will be. Yeah. I can never argue you out of that. Right? It's just a willingness, because if you're not willing to keep trying and figure out how to be resilient, then you will always have a reason to stay guarded, whether it's you got to do something else first, work on yourself first, have a certain amount of money in the bank, get through this project at work, right? Right. There'll be something you need to do first, or you'll think that there are no good men and you'll blame it on the men. Or you'll be like, well, I'm not good enough and I'm not lovable. There'll always be a reason.
Yeah.
So you have to make your reason why not your reason to do something.
And I think it's worth just doubling down and saying that true vulnerability, which requires strength and courage, clarity, is always attractive. And when in my all the men's team and stuff that I've done, and when we convince ourselves otherwise as guys because we don't want to do it, to really check ourselves and ask if we're believing our own bullshit, as we like to say.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that just dating is, like our coach our male coach, Ed, Ed McClune.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. he always says to our clients, like, you know, to be in the pursuit, the intention of love is one of the most courageous things you can do, right? Is to create intimacy requires a shit ton of courage. And you're putting yourself in an opportunity to have shit reflected back that sometimes we don't want to see. And so, but it's worth it. So we'll see what happens to our couples that we have. We have a few ladies and men on this show who have said they're falling in love. We'll see what happens. 3 hours next week for us to report on.
Why is it 3 hours? It's not the final episode, is it?
No, I just think there's a lot. They have to like build us up and tear us down.
It's getting good. Yeah, there's some fights. There's some aggro stuff. The guys are getting dumped and hooking up with stealing each other's girls. And yeah, it looks like it's going to be juicy. Riley's pissed off again, and Aaron and Ivan are fighting. It's good stuff.
It's going to be good. Chris, thank you. I really always appreciate these conversations. We go so deep, and we answered a lot of questions. I think we answered everything that I teased up. If I didn't, go to our free Facebook page, the Dating Den podcast, and say, hey, Marni, Chris, you forgot that one thing. And then we'll address it there. You should join us there. We're having lots of great conversations. And in the meantime, ladies, you know I say it every time. Whatever you're doing, do it with some damn dignity. We'll see you next time. Bye. Hey, thanks for tuning into today's show. So if being in an intimate relationship in which you feel 100% seen, heard, and accepted by a high caliber man is a priority for you right now, and you're interested in seeing if you're a fit for working with me and my team at Dating with Dignity, here's what I want you to do. Just head over to DWD VIP, that's D as in dating, W, D as in dating, VIP.com, and book a call to speak with my team. We'll get on the phone with you for about 60 minutes, and you'll get crystal clear on what's stopping you from finding true love right now. We'll also take a look at what you want to create, what you want your whole life to look like when you're able to finally be fully expressed as a woman in a healthy relationship with an incredible guy. And if we can help you get from where you are right now to where you want to be, we will show you the fastest path possible that makes sense for you to do that. We help smart, successful women all over the world solve this one missing piece in their life so they can finally have it all. So to see if we can help you do the same thing, head over to DWDVIP.com. I'm Marni Batista, and let's talk soon.